I have spent the last 2 years, hands down, just trying to figure out who the fuck I am. Because I will admit, it is overwhelming and so... It just throws you off your rocker when you have so much information coming at you from so many different places, from the internet, from your family, friends, coworkers, people surrounding you, that you start to lose this sense of self, this sense of understanding of yourself, because your boundaries, your values, whatever, it gets so blurred with everybody around you that you forget what's yours and what's not, what thoughts are coming up in your head, what you actually want to own and claim as yours, and what is just passing through because it's what's around you. And the biggest thing that I've learned the hard way the past many years, but especially this past year, is that you have to learn to set your own boundaries, because nobody is going to tell you what to do. And usually when people tell you what to do and you don't kind of have like a backing or understanding or kind of a validation, that internal gut feeling like, yeah, that actually, I totally agree with that. If you don't have that, then you are probably absorbing whatever they want from you, their projections onto you. Man, you grow up thinking that you have to change yourself, or bite your tongue, or do things that don't feel aligned with you, because you were meant to please the people around you. And if you don't please the people around you, then your worth is out the window. And unfortunately, for a lot of people who are women or were raised as women, this is something we're societally conditioned to believe, is that our role in society is to serve and please. But the thing about service and pleasure, even if those were to be true, let's entertain that idea. The thing about service and pleasure is you must be able to know what that is for yourself in order to give it correctly, right? The person who knows how they like to be pleased can better please other people. The person that knows what service feels like can better give it. If we're societally conditioned to think that our main role is to serve and please without actually learning what it's like to healthily be served and be pleased, then what do you think that narrative is coming from? Entertain that. What do you think this narrative of telling us that we have one role within society to play, and it's not a mutually beneficial role, what does that tell you? Why do you think somebody would want to tell you that or instill that narrative in your mind? Now, I've spent a lot of time unpacking this. More time than I should. I literally fucking have spent like 80 hours a week, all my waking hours over the past 2 years. Plus whatever I was doing outside of work before that, trying to figure this out. Who the fuck am I? Who am I when I let go of what everybody else around me has projected onto me? And that was a really hard question for me at first, because I didn't even understand that question at first. I said, well, I'm Kara. I studied engineering. I studied business. I work in finance. I work in consulting. I am a woman. And all these like material identities, objective identities that I could explain with words simply to somebody who's asking me that question, so I could answer them within 10, 20 seconds. Cool elevator pitch. And then you can go down or up another level. You can go up to the next level where you explain your story. Well, I went through this experience and I had this experience and I've experienced that, and those have made me have certain qualities about myself or perspectives or personality traits or actions or characteristics that I carry around with me. I am a very moral person. I'm a very faithful person. I'm a very loyal person. I'm a very just person. I care about serving people. I am very insightful. I'm very analytical. Okay. So that's one layer next, is maybe they're less objective, they're more like qualities. But also, would you be that without having had the experiences that you've had? Okay, so those qualities are kind of tied to the experiences that you've had that are tied to who you are objectively in this world. Maybe you grew up with money, maybe you didn't. Those experiences shape the way that you perceive the world now, the way that you act based off of those perceptions, the underlying beliefs that you have that kind of drive all that in the first place. I've kind of sensed this underlying trend in a lot of what's happening right now in terms of the shift of people's mindsets when it comes to their purpose in life, the way that they view how they spend their time, because that is a big thing right now. If you look at the history of industrialization and human consciousness and thought development, is that a lot of people like 20, 30 years ago, in even shorter time periods than that, everybody wanted a job, right? You want a job because this job provides you a sense of stability in the world. And then that sense of stability provides you kind of a guarantee that, you can work this job. People within society will view you as a certain status because you work a job. And then at the end, when you're 60 or whatever age you retire at, you can retire, you can take your 401k, your savings from the job. The nicer job you have, the fatter your savings are, and then you can retire and go. So a lot of us human beings were so focused on maintaining a certain level of like material status because that provided us a certain lifestyle. Okay, so what is my purpose? If I'm doing the same thing every day, it's, if I'm waking up 5 days a week, 9 to 5, give or take, going to a job, serving a certain function, I am working towards something greater, right? I'm putting all that time and energy and effort into a purpose that is greater than myself. And in the past, those purposes were very driven by industrialization, capitalization, right? And so now we're seeing this shift where we have the internet, we have access to all this information. So we're gaining information that we once did not have access to. And then we're starting to think about like what we actually want to spend our time and energy and attention on. What do we want to put that towards? What type of information really intrigues me? What things do I like learning about? What things am I interested in? And because we have so much more access to so many more things, it's easy to let an algorithm rule you. It's easy to let the people around you feed you things without consciously and intentionally putting a filter through those things for yourself and choosing what you really want for yourself. And that's where that question is, what does my purpose come through? Because when you don't have something telling you what your purpose is, you have to go find that for yourself. And that shit is scary because that means you have to clear everything that you once thought you knew that was given to you and think, okay, what do I want to give myself? What do I want to put on this plate that I just cleared because everybody else was spooning their food into my plate? And now I want to figure out what type of meal do I want to cook? What is my purpose? And let me tell you, when you clear that plate and when you have to ask that question to yourself, seriously, what is my purpose? Holy shit, is it overwhelming and kind of, it's scary because you realize how much of your identity and your ego and whatever was built by other people around you, other forces. And now you're like, okay, this is what I've been so used to my whole life that now I have to figure out how to do that for myself. It's disorienting. It's scary. And not a lot of people want to do it, but we're reaching a point where more and more people are needing to do this. People are realizing that having a 9-to-5 job or having a corporate job does not actually provide you security, because things are changing so quickly that a lot of the systems that have been put in place are changing faster than they ever have, in ways that are not as sustainable as they once were. 100 years ago, 50 years ago, you could start working, have the same job for 40, 50 years and be cool. But that is kind of unheard of now. And that is waking people up with the question, what am I? Who am I? What is my purpose? When all of these things that were usually given to us, and we could just select from a handful of options. And it's so much easier that way. You go to Trader Joe's and there's only one type of pasta. You don't have to think about how many different pastas you want to pick. You pick one, you go. Long-winded way of saying, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? What do you care about as a human being? What type of impact do you want to make on the world? And I found that in my journey, my experience of unpacking that was way harder, because I had to go into unpacking everything and understanding my motivation for every single decision. At least the larger decisions that I made in life. The thing with decisions and human behavior is a lot of the times we're not aware of it, but we operate in patterns. We have certain beliefs that we hold on to, and those beliefs drive our actions. And our actions kind of ripple into having consequences in our lives, right? And so that affects how our lives actually materialize. And if you want to become aware of it and start asking these questions like, what is my purpose? Who am I? You have to look into your actions, which indicate to you your beliefs, and then you kind of have to understand where that belief system that you have comes from. Why do I believe the things I have? Or why do I believe the things that I believe? And then that starts to peek more into your identity and your experiences that you've had throughout life that have shaped those beliefs. And then that's when you kind of start to understand to a better level who you are, what your purpose is as a person, because that's where we all start to really become unique individuals. Is if you have a sibling and you look at the differences between you and your siblings, even though you have very similar DNA, you have maybe similar life experiences, you guys are the same race, the same culture, the same socioeconomic status, at least as growing up as a kid, for the most part, you have the same parents, but you become very different people, even though you have some level of, like a very large level of similarity. And that's what I mean by individuation. You can meet somebody who's so different from you, but sometimes you just click and you're like, holy shit, who are you? Because even though you have these different levels of identity, for some reason you find so many overlaps in the experiences that you've had or the conclusions that you have drawn from those experiences. And vice versa, you could meet someone that's super similar to you and there's just not that, mutual understanding there. And so that's kind of more what I'm getting into when I'm saying, who are you? Like, as a person, is you start to unpack the things about you that make you who you are and find the patterns that kind of they help point you in a direction of like, oh, this is why I keep gravitating towards this thing. This is why I'm so repelled by this thing. This is why, in theory, I want to get away from this, but in practice, I keep moving towards it. You start to see the overall patterns there. And so for me, my journey has really been understanding what, over a long period of my whole life that I've been on earth, what do I keep coming back to? There are things that I go and experience and try. I'm a person that loves to explore my curiosities. When I'm curious about something, I will dive fully into it. And if I feel like it's not me, no harm, no foul. This was a learning experience. I let go and, redirect myself in a different direction. Follow the next curiosity. Keep moving. But over time, you start to notice that there's patterns between these curiosities. So for me personally, I've always come back to sharing ideas. I've always come back to music. I love music. It's something I've done growing up. I played piano and violin. Listening to music and sharing music with my friends has just been a way for me to understand myself and communicate myself better to the people around me and just have these beautiful experiences. That's something I've always come back to. There are things that I'm good at that I still don't enjoy doing because they don't bring me the same joy as other things. And there are things I'm not good at and then I don't find joy from them. So there's kind of like this balance. But what I mean is what I keep coming back to, you find the pattern of that and you're like, okay, this is maybe an idea or a concept that I am naturally curious about and I want to explore further. And maybe I should give myself the opportunity to do this because I think it gives me some indication as to better understand who I am as an individual. So entertain me on this idea. We create our own realities. As much as it's easy to live in a victim mindset of, oh, this is where I was born into, and so this is the reality that was given to me, and I can't really do anything about it. The fact is that you're a grown-ass adult, and if you're not, I don't know, go to school, click off this video. Why? I'm just kidding. But you're a grown-ass adult, and the circumstances that you were placed in as a kid, you don't have to continue those circumstances. You don't have to continue living in those circumstances. You can do something now to change your circumstance. Every thought that you have, every action that you take upon your thoughts, they are things that can shape the reality that you live in. And if you have somewhat of a control, for example, say you have a crush, right? You doing nothing about that, biting your tongue, avoiding your crush, whatever, is building the reality of you're not gonna give yourself the chance to go after your crush. They're never gonna like you back, and then you won't have the relationship that you want. But you deciding to take action, maybe go flirt with them, talk to them, whatever, be in their vicinity, that will help. Those are actions you take to help you build the reality that you want. If you are a person that wants a corporate 9-to-5 job, a lot of the steps that you have, if you just look at how other people get those jobs, a lot of them go to get college degrees at certain schools that help, that those jobs recruit from. There are certain typical steps that you can take that will help increase your odds of creating the life that you want. And so, all in all, you kind of do create the life that you want. It's a very intentional form of manifestation where if you act a certain way in a certain aligned way with your beliefs, those actions will bring forth the reality to you that align with those actions and beliefs. So in my reflection over the past however many years of understanding how I have created my own life, I have also learned that if you can get intentional with this and if you can recognize your patterns of how you have created your life in the past, you can change your actions now and change your belief and change the identity from which you operate to create the life that you want in the future. So I've come to believe for myself, and this is kind of what keeps me going at this point, is that who I am cannot really be answered with words. It can't. And who I am, if I were to try to answer with words, would be just a gross oversimplification. And then who I am to the people in my life really depends on who you're asking and their perspective of me. And I'm basically a fractal of, they have observed me from their perspective. So if you ask somebody who's significant in my life who I am, that's gonna just be a reflection of themselves in some way. So I've come to the point where when people ask me who I am, I tell them who I want to be, because that is what I am working towards. And that is ultimately just what absorbs my consciousness now. It absorbs my mind, it absorbs my actions. Everything that I try to do now, I try to align with who I want to be. And who you want to be really it depends on you. It is up to you. And that is the beautiful thing, is you can take a room full of people who on paper seem so similar, and you can ask them who they want to be, who they want to become, and they may tell you very different things. If you asked me a few years ago who I want to be, I'd be like, I'm an adventurer. I want to live 1,000 lifetimes in this life, and I want to be rich, and I want to create. And yeah, that's who I'm becoming now. But also, as I grow and I develop, that idea that I have for myself of who I want to be grows and develops as well. So now I can get a little bit more specific where, okay, what do you want to create? Well, I would love to create videos like this, music, songs that express my emotions, and really like just, I get to be the person I want to be, but put it in song format. And then when those songs come out, you can be like, oh, that is Kara. Yeah, very distinct sound, very intentional about the messages she's spreading, very intentional about the sonic landscape that she's making. There are certain topics that I want to write about. I have journals and journals, like over 5-6 years of journals of just me writing in it, my thoughts, dumping them every single day, that I want to turn into something helpful for other people to better understand themselves. And so these are all things that these are who I want to be, but also the person that I am currently in the present embodying, because I know that if I am shaping my own reality, then I'm also, if I'm building my own reality, I am in every step of the way better understanding who I am. And that's something that can just never be explained with words. So long story short, it's a scary world out there, because the concept of self that we once have is ever changing. And as things change faster in the realm of information and consciousness, our self-concept is going to change faster than we ever could. But the thing is, we live in these human bodies with a human nervous system, human fascia. We have our gut feelings, we have the human mind, but we also are human beings too, the beingness of that all. And things change so fast that it is difficult to have so much change in a human body and human nervous system. So the only thing that remains constant is change, and who you are is always going to change. And as things change faster, we have to have ways to kind of regulate ourselves through that amount of change, because we are not designed to be changing as fast as we have. And so also in all this research and like literally like self-experimentation that I've been doing over the past however many years, I have also found so many helpful and unhelpful coping mechanisms, or different practices that I have. I like to call them rituals and practices. It really depends on the situation. I feel like if it's unhealthy, it's a coping mechanism, and I've had plenty of that in my life. But I've also had things that stick, that really help me better understanding myself, that really help me calm my nervous system and navigate so much uncertainty that comes with change. And because change is happening so fast, we maybe need to learn to regulate a little bit more than we're used to. So just like really quick, want to skim over them, but for me, some of the biggest, most helpful things for myself is like having a regular practice of journaling. Because things happen so fast and change so fast, sometimes it's nice to have something like tangible and in a language that you can go back and, have like a more fluid memory or like your memory's fluid. You remember things through emotion. Now you have something a little bit more objective and tangible that you can go back and compare your emotions to. But also you can like literally track your emotions through something like a journaling practice. I also, because we live in human bodies and we have nervous systems, having a movement routine or exercise has been so helpful. So there are grounding routines like walking. Like I'll literally just go on walks in nature and touch grass and see sun, and that helps me anytime I feel anxious or uneasy, and I can kind of have that time with myself and have like a little conversation with myself about what's going on. I also do things like yoga, because yoga literally like helps stretch not just your muscles and your tendons and your breathing, like regulating your breathing, but it also, we have fascia, and it's this system within our body that is, it kind of like houses our soul. And to be able to regulate that is really helpful. Breath work is helpful. I'm a sporty person. I love sports. So like doing martial arts for me has been something that has been really helpful, or just like sports in general. But for me specifically, martial arts is great because they have taught me how to remain calm in very difficult and challenging times. Right now I do jujitsu. So literally when someone's choking me out on top of me, I can't breathe, I'm like being suffocated. I have to learn to remain calm in those situations so that I can navigate myself out of those situations, which is a very helpful, transferable skill in life. So having like bodily practices is great. And then also for me, building a life, like leaving my 9-to-5 job and building a life where I can really pick each part and choose what I want to do every day and figure out what works for me. And I'm still figuring this out. But being able to feel in control of my future in this way is so helpful because I get to build the skills I want to build. I get to explore the interests that I have that are so natural to me. I get to explore my curiosities, and I get to grow in the exact way that I want to grow and have full accountability for everything. And in the beginning, that journey was really difficult because I never faced that level of accountability. That level of like, hey, everything that you do, it's your responsibility. Every part of your life that you're dissatisfied with is your responsibility. It's a result of your actions. So you're gonna have to take accountability and change those actions so that you can change what you dislike in your worlds and bring in more of what you do like in your world. But being able to do this has helped me through this uncertainty so much because now I can't blame it on somebody else and feel like a victim and feel helpless. I have to be like, hey, what can you do to change this? So those are and art, oh my God, art and music. To be able to find these like frustrations that usually I just could not put words for, or like literally any emotion that I did not have the words for, and explain them and communicate them in a way that is so much more nuanced than words has been so helpful to me because I can put words to it. As a person who needs a little bit of certainty, the words and being able to communicate is nice. But a lot of the times finding the words are difficult. So finding something in between the thoughts and the words and putting that out on paper, putting that into song is helpful because then after the fact I can be like, oh, that's what I was feeling. That's what this is about. But also it's just fucking fun. And it feels good. And music makes the world go round. So, yeah. Who the fuck are you? I don't know. Let me know. Hopefully this helps you at least a little bit in your journey of figuring that out. But I think we are all figuring it out. And it will never be fully figured out. And there is no end goal. So part of the beauty is enjoying the journey. And good luck, my friend.